Hello. So this was a donated request from Mohamed. This is Rabbi Dovid Weiss. Zionism has created rivers of blood. I know there's a lot of stuff happening right now over there. I'm not getting into it. This will probably be the closest that I'm willing to get into it. Let's hear what he has to say.
We ask questions.
What is needed in the world?
Is that going to be?
When Israel's Prime Minister visited Washington last week on the eve of the Purim holiday, he gave President Obama what he considered a symbolic gift, a copy of the Old Testament book of Esther. Netanyahu called it background reading on Iran, since its story concerns relations between Jews in the Persian Empire some 2,500 years ago. It's considered by scholars to be mostly fiction, but for Netanyahu, Esther represented justification for his stance against modern Iran.
Israel must reserve the right to defend itself. And after all, that's the very purpose of the Jewish state, to restore to the Jewish people control over our destiny.
But Netanyahu's controversial reading of history, even his fight to preserve the state of Israel, are questioned by many of Judaism's own religious authorities.
This is against the will of the Almighty, and this is not what it means to be a Jew.
On the threat from Iran and President Ahmadinejad,
He gives charity to the Jewish communities, and the words wipe out. He constantly says that Iran doesn't have a history, and he's not talking about harming anybody. He says that God will not allow this crime to happen. We concur with him that Jews are in a danger because there is Zionism, and because it says in the Torah, if you rebel against God, it will not be successful, and it will bring catastrophic results. And Zionism has brought catastrophic results, and it could be much worse.
today on Talk to Al Jazeera, Rabbi Dovid Weiss explains why Zionism and Judaism are not necessarily the same thing. Rabbi, first of all, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera.
Thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to be on your show.
Your most distinctive feature that I have noticed in seeing you in the media are the signs that you wear on your lapel. Please explain.
This is a sign that conveys the message of what it means to be a Jew. As it says, a Jew, not a Zionist, and pray for the speedy, peaceful dismantlement of the state of Israel. And then it's repeated, nkusa.org, our site for people to go further and see it, their website, and then to see it's in Arabic, the same message. And basically it means that people, unfortunately, around the world see somebody as I am dressed, and they think that automatically I am dressed very religiously. I'm definitely a strong supporter of the state of Israel and of the occupation of the people of Palestine. And in truth, there could be nothing further from the truth.
In truth, what you want is the speedy, peaceful dismantlement of the state of Israel.
Because it's contradictory. Judaism is subservience to the Almighty, practiced for thousands of years, a covenant with God to be subservient to Him. And Zionism is a new movement, a relatively new movement, a transformation from...
I think that from a video I just saw, that Zionism started in the 1880s? I don't think it was 1870s. Potentially the 1890s, but I think it was 1880s. And it was a push to get Israel its own country. Or to form a country. And from the video that I did before, it was the something Pico agreement. And then the Americans had the king and crane thing, which they were looking at. It was the Dr. Yasser 1914 video. And the American delegation figured out there's just nowhere that we can put a state of Israel. And I know that was the Zionist movement. And I think a lot of Jewish people were against it. I think. I'm going to say yes.
the religion into a base, materialistic, nationalistic movement to have a piece of land which is forbidden for the Jewish people.
Okay, we'll have to unpick this piece by piece, I think, because for most people, the idea of the state of Israel...
Sorry. Give me 1 second. Gotta pause. Tea time. Okay. Sorry about that. I had to... I had to make sure I had some water boiling, and I wanted to make tea because it's really cold right now. And so I heard it pop, and I wanted to make my tea. Otherwise, I'd forget. Sorry. Let me go back. Right there.
To unpick this piece by piece, I think, because for most people, the idea of the state of Israel is fixed within a very rigid framework, and what they understand about the existence of Israel is by and large very uniform, at least according to what you read in newspapers. So let me try and get your position clear on this. What you're saying is that the existence of Israel is somehow against your religion.
The Jewish religion forbids, since the destruction of the temple 2,000 years ago, we were given an edict, a decree by God, it's a prophecy of King Solomon, that we are not to attempt to recreate our sovereignty. Even 1 inch of Jewish sovereignty, even in an uninhabited land, is expressly forbidden. And Jews wait for the day when God will make a miracle, where all humanity will serve him in harmony. We won't have to convince an atheist that there is a God. Everybody will recognize God, and then we will all go up and serve him. Prior to that event, we are expressly forbidden to try to attempt to make any Jewish nationalism sovereignty, and this was respected and upheld by Jews throughout the trials and tribulations of the Inquisition, the Crusades, and every time period of Judaism when they were easily capable of buying land. They never did it because they understood this is against the will of the Almighty, and this is not what it means to be a Jew.
Once again, this is not an opinion that you hear expressed very often. Are you in a minority? Is this simply your reading of the Torah?
No, this is the view of Judaism and Jews who are practicing the religion who are around the world. You will find invariably any religious community that is very religious. We carry around, first we have called the rabbis speak out. This is the leaders of Judaism from Sephardic, Ashkenazic, in other words, European, Middle Eastern, any country. The rabbis, when Zionism came, the concept of Zionism was developed, the Jewish rabbinical authorities universally said, no, this is forbidden for us to do. The reason being that it is not the concept of subservience to God, it's a nationalism, and in its actions, when it comes into fruition, when they created the state, the concept of stealing from people, killing, stealing, is all forbidden according to the Torah. So in every facet, Zionism is a rebellion against the command of God.
But what about the argument that a lot of them make, and that is that the Bible specifically says that this land was given to the Jewish people by God, and therefore it belongs to them?
That is why Zionism decided, when they're making their national home, to make it in Palestine, because really the fathers of Zionism in the 1895, in the 1890s, when they made their first meetings, they discussed making their national home in Uganda, in Patagonia. And because they were anti-religious, Theodor Herzl, Ben Gurion, well, at that time Jabotinsky, Theodor Herzl, these people detested the religion. As we have a compilation of their writings in his own diary, Theodor Herzl wrote that Jews should convert to Christianity. That would be the solution to the Jewish problem. And it should be done in pride and music. On page 14 of his diaries, we will get to that with God's help. And he didn't circumcise his son. He openly wrote about this in the newspapers, that he's not circumcising his one son in the hands. So they detested religion. They were looking for a practical area of that they would flourish, a land that would be fruitful, and to create a land. But then they realized, practically speaking, you need a massive backing as far as money goes, and the way to get that from the world is to go to Palestine and claim that they're doing God's will, they're the beginning of God's redemption, and therefore people should support them because in the Torah it says that God gave the Jewish people the land.
But Zionism also claims exception because of the Holocaust. Now, you just attributed the phrase to Theodor Herzl, the solution to the Jewish problem,
Yes.
and that will have raised ears all over the world because
Right.
that's the phrase that most people attribute to Hitler. Now,
Right.
the idea that the Jews need a safe country in order to prevent the possibility of another Holocaust, in order to solve the persecution of Jews throughout millennia, is one of the founding principles of Israel. You don't think that holds any water either?
The Holocaust was God's will, and we don't question God. God is compassionate and so forth, but we have to be introspective, understand why it came. We believe that God will be exacting with the punishment for the Nazis, but at the same time, to take the issue of the Holocaust and to take that and to use it to rebel against God, when God specifically told us, do not attempt to make your own state, and to use that to take the land from the Palestinian people, is taking the people that died because they were Jewish, and to sort of dig them up and use them to rebel against God. It couldn't be anything worse for these people who died as Jews.
But you have to understand that the desire to be with a like community, the desire to commune with people of the same religion is a very strong one, and to have a homeland has got to be
emotional feeling.
But you're also saying that a defining feature of being a Jew is exile.
A defining feature is accepting that there is a ruler to the world who's compassionate, and it is medicine for the Jewish people, as Rabbi.
Question. He said there's no homeland. I mean, I don't know, but was there ever a Jewish homeland before? I didn't think there was. I trust me, being wrong isn't a first. Since I've had this channel, it would be several million times. But was there a land before that? Or would it just be kind of wherever they decided they wanted to live? That was home. And it doesn't necessarily mean that all the Jewish people had to live together. Family could live over here. And I do know that Dr. Yasser said that Muslims and Jewish people got along just fine throughout history. And I think that, and I said this on that other video, it's because I think there's a healthy respect from Islam to the other religions. Can't necessarily say the other religions share that same view. But yeah, was there a Jewish homeland before? I have no idea. Jewish homeland equal religion equal me not know much.
Assumption Fulhurst, the head of the German community, wrote that God is compassionate, and his will, since the destruction of the temple, was that he's good in his punishment. He wanted us to break our haughtiness, so he had us dispersed amongst the nations. At the same time, it was accomplishing a blessing for the world if we would be following the Judaism, because we are people who would be teaching the world of compassion, of serving God. So it serves twofold. It serves two purposes. But unfortunately, if we don't do what we're supposed to be doing as Jews, it doesn't accomplish that purpose.
I am not a learned scholar of matters Jewish, so I can't argue with you, but I know there are many who would. There is a strain within Israel itself, within the state of Israel, started, I think, by Rabbi Kook, perpetuated by a number of names in modern Judaism, who say, no, it's perfectly compatible with the writings of the Torah, that we have a state of Israel, and in fact, it not only makes political sense, it makes religious sense too.
Yeah, well, that is why I said I'm not requiring anybody to become a scholar in Judaism, but if you just step out of the box, let us just say, and go to Jerusalem, go to New York, go to, in London, Stamford Hills, the religious communities, the Ivy League of Judaism, the rabbinical colleges, you will see that the most religious communities, every one of them are anti-Zionist, and they, for instance, in Williamsburg, you won't find one Israeli flag. The majority of Jews in Jerusalem and Palestine won't send their children to the army, and they don't fly Israeli flags on their buildings because it is contradictory. It is diametrically opposite.
What about the
Zionist.
settler movement? I mean, they present themselves as being religiously based and very fundamental.
Yes, there is the issue that they fuse together Zionism. They've hijacked the name Israel, the Star of David. They're using this, and what they're doing is they've been able to, by incorporating the Jewish feelings. For instance, they call themselves the beginning of God's redemption. They do agree that we were sent into exile by God. The ones who aren't non-believers, which many of them are, but the ones who do believe, they say, yes, God sent us into exile, but we are the beginning of God's redemption. And they've been able to ensnare the youth, mostly from, these are all from, almost entirely from non-religious homes or marginally religious. They are not the mass, the general populace of Jewish religious people. These you will find and call it the silent majority, all the communities that are opposed to these settlers. These settlers are definitely a minority that are always in your face. You will see them because they're up front. They're agitating, they're creating this terrible situation, but they don't represent Judaism. But being that they created in Palestine their homeland, so now they're breaching every concept of thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, and it's being done, creating rivers of blood because of hate around the world.
Now, you used the phrase a moment ago, taking land from the Palestinians, which again is a problematic one for a lot of Western educated Jews and non-Jews alike. There is an argument.
I'll just say, taking land could be a harsh word to use, but it doesn't mean it's incorrect. Bear with me. You're talking to an American who gets garbage thrown at him because we took the land away from Native Americans. Native Americans took the land away from other Native Americans. Everyone takes land from someone else. I think the problem, this is me speaking. Yeah, there's an opinion written right behind the camera, and I was going to read that, but now I've decided I'm going to read my own opinion. This is such a new state. What after World War I, World War II, let's say since the 40s. So you're talking 80 plus years. So 80 years. I'm going to say after World War II, 45, so that would be 55 plus 23, so 78 years. Okay, we're just going to round up and call it 80. We're not going to get into the nitty-gritty. But this is so new of land being taken and given to someone else. I think if this had happened in the 1500s, I don't think the tension is going to be as strong, but I'm saying that from somebody who's not there. Clearly, I could be wrong. But because it's so new, I think that's why it's such a hot button issue. Does that make sense? I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. Land has been taken from people who inhabited that land, who took that land from people who inhabited before them, who inhabited before. We're humans. We take.
Which is very much in the news right now, that there is no such thing as a Palestinian people, and there is an argument that says the lands that we are talking about never belonged to anybody called Palestinians. So what do you mean by taking Palestinian land?
You know, the Zionists would love to get into some technical jargon and technical. What are you saying? There's not a Palestinian people and the land. We're talking as individual dwellers in Deir Yassin, in town after town and town, that we have many of our Jewish colleagues who are presently still living in the occupied Palestine there in Jerusalem, and they remember how they lived in.
It may not have been Palestinian land, but Palestinian people lived on that land. And I think that's people say, well, it wasn't Palestinian land. Okay. But that doesn't mean that they didn't live there. They didn't own that little property of land. They didn't work hard for, I don't know, is it good farming area? I have no idea. Manufacturing? I have no idea. I don't know the land at all specifically. But that doesn't mean that they didn't have that land, have a section of land, have a home on that, you know, no different than anyone else. So yeah, to be, okay, this is no longer your land. Well, it wasn't Palestinian land to begin with. Okay, but that doesn't mean Palestinian people didn't live there. It's tricky. I understand what he's saying, though.
In total harmony with their Muslim and Arab neighbors, and they live there. The majority of people reside.
But what do you say to Newt
Palestine
Gingrich, who
were
says
Muslim.
these are all Arabs? They're not Palestinians, they're simply Arabs.
Again, these are technical terms to confuse the person. The fact is, the majority of people were non-Jews. They were Muslims and Arabs living in this area, whether it would be under Turkish or British mandate. That's neither here nor there. But they are the indigenous people who they either left because they were attacked as in Deir Yassin, or they ran away out of panic because they've seen what happened in these towns. And therefore, as a Jew, which is what people call human rights, we call godliness, we are forbidden to steal their land.
So let me just paraphrase, if I could, what you've told us so far. The state of Israel has no legitimacy. It shouldn't exist at all. True. That Jews are responsible for rivers of blood, as you put it, in the Palestinian lands. That the Holocaust is not sufficient reason to override the basic Jewish premise that the Jews should not have a land of their own. I may not have quoted you entirely accurately, but even if someone like me were to even hint at thinking like that, I would be branded anti-Semitic. I would be vilified in the mainstream media. Yes, so the question is, are you anti-Semitic?
That is the beautiful ploy of Zion.
Okay, I was just about to say, one thing that does always annoy me is when you have a discussion with somebody about a topic like this, and there's that racism card they're going to play. And sometimes it's a valid point. You know, if I were to come on here and say, you know, we should get rid of all these goddamn blacks in America, you'd be like, ooh, whoa. Why do you say that? Well, I don't like them because of their skin color. Okay, racist card, yeah, or bigot card, whatever you want to say. Certainly, that's not a smart thing to say, and that gets you in trouble. And it should. If I honestly said that and I felt it and I meant it, then yes, I should get in trouble for that. But sometimes people will say, like what he's saying, Jewish people shouldn't have this, and this is what he's saying. By the way, this is my mom's cup. So, what he's saying is, they shouldn't have been given a land because they took that land away from Palestinians, Arabs, Muslims, whatever you want to, however you want to phrase it. For him, as the moderator said, to have said that, boom, there's your "you hate Jewish people" card. And now, sometimes that card is thrown out to make people run or defend themselves or put them on their heels like, no, that's not what I meant. And then the other person is going to keep digging in, because that is a way to just label someone and end the discussion. You don't have to listen to them. They're canceled. And to me, that is when, and I've had discussions like this, where I've had discussions with women about how their stupid life choices, they date 12 men who treat them like garbage, and then they say, well, these men ain't shit. And I'm like, well, the common denominator is you. So if these 12 men treated you like crap, how did you treat them? If these 12 men are garbage human beings, what does that make you? You're not free and innocent. You have responsibility and accountability for your actions. So you can't just pass that on. So when this discussion took place, I got called a misogynist. And it's like, I can't be a misogynist when like my best friend would be my sister, or I get along great with my nieces. I go to cookouts with them. That's the hatred of women. How could I be? That person's just mad they got called out on their garbage. See, if they were with other people who would lie to them and boost up their ego, but when they come across somebody who's not going to do that, that's when they label them. So the people who quickly want to just throw that card out there and label are people, to me, don't even acknowledge. Just when they say that, just be like, oh, you're one of those? Okay, good. Shoo them away and move focus to other people who are going to legitimately want a discussion, want to hold a debate. Neither of you may see eye to eye, but you're both understanding each other's point. You're never going to have that debate with that other person, because it's going to be, here it is, here's your racist card, that's all you are, you can't prove it. And if you apologize, if you're one of those people who's like, no, that's not what I meant, my apologies, that's not what I meant, your apology isn't good enough. You got to grovel. Don't even get into it with those people. And I apologize for taking up the time, but I was just trying to say that I understand what he's saying. And people are going to label that because it's the easiest way to get rid of the conversation, to change the narrative to, well, that person's racist or misogynist or bigoted, or they hate Jewish people, which is probably what he's going to hear. Oh, you just hate Jews. How can I? I can't be one and hate them. That'd be like me hating white people. Don't get me wrong, I do. Some of them, some are all right. But, you know.
That they can intimidate anybody who stands in opposition to their blatant, inhumane treatment of the Palestinians. And mind you, we will show you with God's help that they're brutally beating the Jewish inhabitants, who nobody can accuse us of being armed or militant. And yet you can see that the Jews are brutally beaten simply because they're standing in Palestine, because there's...
Wait a minute, is he saying the Jews, the Jewish people are, or authorities or whatever, are beating other Jewish people, or they're beating the Palestinians? Because if they're beating other Jewish people, what the hell's going on? But I'm going to guess that's not what they're doing. I don't want to label, but this guy down here looks like he might be a Muslim. Maybe he is Jewish. I have no idea. So I'm asking you, who's beating who? He's the one I should be listening to. I'm asking you. I have no idea. You have no idea. Well, you probably do.
Masses, tens of thousands of Jews who stand out and demonstrate, and they get brutally beaten because they're opposing the existence of state, and they want the world to know.
They get brutally beaten by the Israeli state.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
Okay.
you can see it on our site and links, but you can just see, and simply they're standing there, non-militant, we never carry arms, and this is what happens.
But the argument that you have made
Yes.
will be interpreted by the majority of people reading English language newspapers, watching English language television, as being prima facie anti-Semitic. How does that make you feel, that what you believe to be
Right.
a true representation of your religion is being portrayed in the media as actually being completely contrary to that?
Because, and I'm not trying to answer for him, but because every side needs a boogeyman, so to speak, needs someone to blame, someone to hate, someone to point all their aggression out on. Not you. I'm saying it's him, is what they're going to try to do. They're going to point it out on him. And they're going to blame him for all this other stuff. But, and this isn't the first time this is going to happen. This is a common theme. I would like to use this time to take the discussion down a different path for just a second. 1846, United States of America. James K. Polk becomes president, 11th president. That's 11th. Let me say that again so you understand what I was saying instead of mumbling like an idiot. James K. Polk starts a war with Mexico. 1846 to 1848. It's the U.S.-Mexican War. And I've said this before on the channel. He sent troops down. with the intention to start a war because he wanted to annex Texas, all up Colorado, over into California, because Mexico had a big swath of land in the current United States, if you don't know. He wanted Texas, and he wanted a lot of that land to the Pacific Ocean. He sends troops down there. The troops crossed the border at the time, which is, they would be in America today, but they crossed and went into what was then Mexico. So they, with the sole intent, it was soldiers with the sole intent to start a war. Mexico sees this. I think Mexico kind of knew what was going on, but they didn't want to do it. Americans forced their hand by shooting first, I believe. Could be wrong. I'm going to say they probably did. Mexico did exactly what anyone would do. They retaliated. You're going to shoot at us, we'll shoot at you. War starts. James K. Polk uses that and says they attacked us on our land. Meaning the Americans crossed into Mexico. But he told Congress, the Americans stayed up here, Mexicans crossed into America. They shot at us. He left out that whole, we crossed over and then we fired first part. Okay. There was one representative from Illinois, a young Abraham Lincoln, future 16th president, who said, could you show us where the shots were fired? Where on a map could you point to and show us where the shots were fired? Because he knew we were in Mexico. We fired illegally. We started the war. He knew what the intention was. Everyone knew. Everyone wanted annexation of Texas. How did they phrase it? Manifest destiny. God wants us to have this land. He wants us to have all that. God wants us to be a powerful country. Manifest destiny. That was a big common thing in the 1800s in the United States. Abraham Lincoln stands up. What happens? James K. Polk labels Abraham Lincoln somebody who hates the military. He hates the servicemen. Everyone then, what? Wait a minute. You hate the military? You hate these guys who go out and fight for your freedom? And Abraham Lincoln's like, not at all what I mean. Not at all what I said. Too late. So then Abraham Lincoln had to backpedal. That's not what I meant. That's not what I'm saying. I'm simply asking a question. He had every right to ask that question. But James K. Polk was a better politician, knew what to say and how to curve the whole conversation away from him being the one who should be answering to blaming him and making everyone focus the attention here so the war can continue. It's just, I bring that up to simply point out that things like that happen all the time. And he's pointing out Israelis are beating Jewish people who are speaking out against Israel, and they're getting assaulted. No one's saying anything. So they're going to label him the bad guy because he brings it out. He's the Abraham Lincoln because he's saying, look, this isn't right. Let's be fair here. And so they label him the bad guy. So all the eyes and all the attention and all the negativity will go to him and his ilk and all the people who are on his side saying, hold on, wait a second. And as long as you can make those people, I'm going to say Benjamin Netanyahu is here. If he can make everyone's attention focus there, then he can continue. Because now these people are going to be defending, because now they're getting verbal attacks from everywhere. And the point is lost. That's what I'm trying to say. And I apologize for the length of saying it.
Yeah, well, that's part of the tragedy that the media has been, unfortunately, we feel, sometimes owned and sometimes intimidated in a large manner by Zionism, in which they have media watch, just like they have AIPAC that affects politicians, are fearful of speaking against the Zionist actions or whatever they do because they're labeled anti-Semitic. Anybody can go and to come to New York. We invite anybody who wants to come to Manhattan. I don't give visas, but if anybody who comes to Manhattan, goes across the bridge, and they'll see the largest Jewish communities. And here, this is in Washington, D.C., when President Obama, when Netanyahu came to visit President Obama, you'll see tens of thousands of Jews go out, demonstrate against the existence of the state of Israel and their actions, what they're doing, and nobody reports. Washington Post, New York Times, they've never reported. It's unbelievable. And when the Zionists make a little demonstration of 50 people, they're there. This is never seen.
Okay.
So
Sorry to keep interrupting. We're sort of running out of time a little bit. I want
that you're saying that we're anti-Semitic. The most, all the charitable organizations, all the Jewish growth and that flourishes is from these communities. And we, so not only we're not anti-Semitic, we are concerned about all the Jews.
Are
we
you
do for them.
Are you a self-hating Jew then?
Because we are concerned for the life and spiritual and physical of the Jewish people. We're saying they're causing bloodshed. Remove this impediment to peace, and we can live together, Muslims and Jews and Christians together in peace. We pray for the speedy and peaceful dismantlement of the state.
One of the other observations that I would make, everything that you have said, in many ways, reflects, quite funnily enough, the views of President Ahmadinejad of Iran, whom you have just visited. And he, of course, is vilified as being the most anti-Semitic man in the world right now, with the sole aim of wiping out Jews and the state of Israel. Now, you've spoken to him very recently. Is that a fair characterization?
I'm not his lawyer. I'm not going to go into his heart, but the fact is, even Zionist papers admitted to the fact that he gives charity to the Jewish communities, and he says one thing: he has a problem with the oppression of the Palestinian people and the words "wipe out." He constantly says that Iran doesn't have a history, and he's not talking about harming anybody. He says that God will not allow this crime to happen. We concur with him that God. The Jews are in a danger because there is Zionism, and because it says in the Torah, if you rebel against God, it will not be successful, and it will bring catastrophic results. And Zionism has brought catastrophic results, and it could be much worse.
You speak with great passion. You have supporting materials. You seem to dedicate a great deal of your life to this particular cause. A lot of people will look at you and go, well, just one perhaps slightly extreme, perhaps slightly misguided individual. I mean, do you get much personal attack? Do you actually feel that anyone is listening out there, given what we see in the media every day?
Well, again, that is the point. We say Zionism, that they vilify, they ridicule. Other people they call anti-Semitic, us they call self-hating Jews and so forth. They ridicule us as being just some a nominal number. But we invite anybody to come and study for themselves the makeup of Jewish communities worldwide, and they will find that the Jewish communities that are practicing the religion properly around the world, without an exception, from Australia, which is in Melbourne, the most, to Argentina, and I was in all these communities, thank God. No, I wasn't in Australia, I'm sorry, in Argentina. We just share this same view.
You clearly are very passionate about your beliefs, but you are also clearly fighting some fairly formidable forces in terms of the Zionist movement itself, the State of Israel, international Western opinion and all. Do you have much faith that your voice will be heard?
The great leader, Chief Rabbi of Palestine, Rabbi Teitelbaum of blessed memory, he passed away some 30 years ago. People asked him, it's daunting, how do you stand against Zionism? So he said, I'm not in the minority, I'm with God. There's a God who rules the world, who's the most powerful, and therefore we stand strong. And anyway, at the end of the day, God will accomplish. God will do, and we believe we pray it will end. The state will end because it's a rebellion against God. We just pray it should happen speedily and peacefully. Don't be labeled anti-Semitic. If you stand up and urge the world that they should stand up for the people who are suffering in Palestine, in Gaza, and don't be intimidated, but clearly distinguish. Don't call it the Jewish state, and we could go on and live and serve God together in peace.
Rabbi, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera.
Thank you. It's an honor and a privilege.
I like the guy on the left. So on my screen, I'm pointing to the left, but apparently, I like that guy. That guy right there. There. Can't get my hand right. The reporter. I don't know. He reminds me of a British Muslim guy. I don't know why. No idea. Probably not. Okay, so this was a request, donated request, and you can there's a thanks button. You can donate to the channel. You can request videos. They'll move to the top of the list. You don't have to. Just, thanks. Thank you. You can subscribe. Go ahead and subscribe right now. Just click that button. I'll wait. Okay. Now give a thumbs up. All right. Good job. And the people who want to give a thumbs down, we have this new YouTube channel. It's called Bomb Eaters. And we just see how many mortars you can fit down your fat little throats until it goes, I think I might have wished grenade eating before. I don't remember. But either way, why take away the fun? So until next time, have a good day, have a good night.